Well, I've spoken on many occasions to groups. I've spoken to elementary groups and high schools. I spoke to United Negro College Fund. I've spoken to NAACP, Martin Luther King Celebration. And tonight, for some reason, I'm a little bit nervous because I like to be totally prepared. But I'm having to leave tomorrow, and I'm working with the gospel choir at Lake Mary High School, and they have an event coming up. And today, this whole past week has been very crowded. But I pray that what's in me comes out. It's never going to be erased. What I went through, you couldn't erase it. I can remember it all like it was yesterday. And I just want to not take up much time, but basically, starting off, I couldn't, like I say, I'm upset because I couldn't get my PowerPoint together before I came here today. But these are some of the pictures from my PowerPoint. So you could come by my table afterwards and see. But I'll just briefly want to tell you my origin, because I wasn't born in Sanford, but they didn't bring me here to integrate schools. It's really kind of, I guess, spiritual how I'm connected, and how I was brought here. But anyway, this couple had me. I was born to Winifred Richardson and Michael Turner in New York. And he disappeared from the scene. So she was left. She had a child, and she did not want me to be under his influence because of the situation. So she was willing to give me up for adoption. And this is the baby she gave up for adoption. And Ulysses and Edna Burton adopted me in 1950. Okay? So, that makes me 68, yes. Well, the fact that I integrated schools in 1964 at the age of 14 kind of like gives it away. Well, the Burtons owned the Burton's Funeral Home. And here I am with Edna Burton in 1951. That was my first Christmas. That was my first Christmas. But it was a sad time. If I had more time, I would tell you about this man and his wife, Harry T. Moore. Mm-hmm. How many of you know of him? Oh, yeah. Raise your hand, I'm a teacher. Yes. Yes, okay. Harry T. Moore and his wife was the first couple to be killed in the Civil Rights Movement. Mm-hmm. And my parents buried Harry T. Moore. Oh, yes. My parents, Ulysses and Edna Burton, they buried him. And when they put him in the ground, I was like 6 months old. So the Ku Klux Men who bombed the house, right, had no idea that the people who put Harry T. Moore in the ground had somebody at home that was just going to mess up their program. You get it? Do you get the connection? I messed up their program. I was born, and see, they didn't think to, here are my parents here at the grave site. This is in the Ebony magazine. They didn't think to bomb the funeral. They didn't think to bomb the undertakers. They thought their job was done. Oh my God. They killed Harry T. Moore and his wife. They thought it was all right. But the Burtons had a baby at home. Glory to God. Excuse me. Amen. Sadly, Edna Burton didn't live to see me even go to first grade. She died in 1956, just before I turned 6. I started school in 1956, first grade. So she died, and then I think it's 1958, my father married Cleo Alexander. The Alexander family is very popular in Sanford. Cleo Alexander, now she's Cleo Alexander Burton. She is going to be 99 years old next month. Okay. But my father passed away after I got married, but she knew Harry T. Moore. was in his first grade class. She's from Live Oak, Florida, and he was in Live Oak. She was his first grade student. She knew him. She knew his whole family. And when she was in bed in Sanford, she felt the bomb when it went off. She was in Sanford and the bomb went off in Mims. She told me, she said, I was awakened out of my sleep. She said, I felt something, it jolted me. That's on Locust Avenue. She said she got up the next morning and went outside and asked people, what happened last night? Something happened last night. So her neighbor said, yes, they killed Harry T. Moore over there in Mims. And she said, does Burton have the body? Then she wasn't married to my father. Then she was Cleo Alexander. And my parents had his body. She said, what about his wife? They said his wife is in the hospital. So my mom, Miss Cleo, you know, she's the one that married my dad. This is my stepmother, okay? I've had 3 mothers. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Winifred, Edna, and then Cleo. She walked down to the hospital and she talked to Harriet Moore. And she said she didn't want to let her know that her husband was dead. But she was one of the last people on earth to speak to Harriet T. Moore's wife before she died. But Harriet T. Moore paved the way for civil rights by championing equal pay for black teachers, organized a black vote. That's why it's important for me to mention him tonight. And he publicly condemned racist attitudes and actions of local, state, and national officials, and this got him killed. This is on Christmas Day, 1951. The Moores their house was bombed. He and his wife were killed. It was a bomb heard around the world. The bomb was so strong that it propelled their bodies up into the ceiling. And he was buried in Mims, Florida, by Burton's Funeral Home. In 1964, my father came to me and said, baby, would you like to go to the white school? And without thinking, I said, that was like asking me, did I want to just go to a candy store and get everything I wanted? What was that? I didn't want to be white at the time. No. I was just a curious type of kid. I just could not understand why we were considered dumb. We were not as smart as white kids. We weren't even anywhere near. I couldn't understand why we weren't allowed to go to restaurants. We couldn't stay in the hotels. We couldn't have the finer things. I didn't understand it. And I just wanted to find out. And another funny thing is my cousins, I was already integrating because we lived on Locust Avenue, and my cousins, Frederick Alexander and my cousin Reginald Alexander, we call him Pumpkin. He just passed away just recently. But they rode their bicycles through the white community. You have Locust Avenue and Celery. On the other side of Celery was the white community. You did not go in there. You didn't walk around in there. You were not welcome by any means. And my cousins rode their bikes through there all the time. And they were like my brothers because I was an only child. So, you know, in the Alexander family, your cousins became your brothers. That was it. So me, you know, I told you I was curious, right?
Right.
I followed them. I got on my bike. They said, come on, Ingrid, go with us. I said, okay. And we rode through the white community. We didn't walk, you understand? Especially when the dogs came out. Matter of fact, on one day when the dogs came out, I remember dropping my bike and like cutting across the field. But we rode through the white community. So when my dad asked me, would you like to go to the white school? I said yes, because I was just curious. You know, I love my friends, I love my family, but it was just in me to just do it. I didn't think twice. Today I can't explain to you why I did, because I didn't think I was losing friends. I didn't, because after school, I always came home to friends and family. I never broke those chains. You know, they say you don't forget where you come from, and I never did. I kept in touch, and even today, 2 of my classmates are sitting here right now from Crooms High School, the class of 1968. Raise your hands.
Really?
George Stark was on the biracial committee, and they were charged with integrating schools, coming up with a plan. So I was his goddaughter, and so I was a guinea pig. And, you know, I had to be in the first wave, you know what I mean? And so the police, my dad, the night before it happened, I received a threatening phone call. And this lady told me, you don't want to go to that white school tomorrow. You better not go. It was, of course she's a white lady. Yes. You better not go. Now you get off this phone and you go tell your parents that you don't want to go. I'm 14 years old, right? Very polite. Yes, ma'am. Put the phone down. Went to the kitchen, got something to eat, and went to bed. My parents never knew. My father died without ever knowing that that happened. And my mother didn't find out until 1998 when a news article was written about me. I'd forgotten about the whole thing. I didn't have a sense of danger. I didn't have a sense of that, but a lot of stuff was going on. A lot of people were being hurt back in those days. People were being shot, and, you know, terrible things were done to people back in those days because they wanted equality, black and white, we know. But I wasn't afraid then. And in 1964, I was escorted into Sanford Junior High School by the policemen, and my father watched from the car. I didn't know that. I saw this big building. If you look at Sanford, what is it now? Sanford Middle School?
Sanford Middle School.
But it was Sanford Junior High, and I guess it used to be Seminole High School at the point. But if you look at the facade of the school, you just see a school and windows. But I did not know that on the other side, there was a whole world of people, students and teachers, watching me come in.
Really?
I had no idea. But one of those students was Dawn Lipthrop. And she had no desire to know me. She had no desire to affiliate with anybody black, African American, none at all. She told her friends, as long as she stays in her place, it's all right with me. That's it. You see us now, right, in the picture. So something happened, right?
Yeah.
Something happened because they were very good friends. What happened was when we went to Seminole High School the next year, we found ourselves on the same team. I was like a tomboy, and she was too. We loved sports. So one day we were picked to be on the same team, and she said, oh my goodness, you know, she hated that. But when I got on the team and played with her, she found out that I was as good as she was, and that I hated to lose like she hated to lose. I didn't like the weak players like she didn't like the weak players. She would pick me first to be on her team every time. We were more alike than we were different. And that's how she in the news article in 1998, she said, Ingrid is the reason that I'm not a racist today, because of our friendship and the way she lived in front of me. And she said, she is the reason that I will stand up for anyone that is being disenfranchised, anyone that's being, you know where, being mistreated because of their skin color or race or creed. She can't stand it, and she will stand up for it. Matter of fact, she spoke, the last time I spoke, I was able to get her to, she gave her standpoint. She gave the story that I had never heard, what it's like to be white and have a black friend when schools integrate. Really? She lost friends. She let go of friends because of what they said about me. And I didn't know that, but I appreciate knowing that today, that has happened. And I wanted to say also, there are many, I was in the first wave, you know, of those who had to do the fighting to get in there. But many of us in here, anybody my age and older, has experienced racism in the rarest, most raw form of racism. Anyone my age and older, definitely, we saw it. We saw how bad it was. That's why when I speak today and speak to children, I want them to understand the sacrifice that was made. We're the witnesses. You know, after we're gone, there won't be any more witnesses as to, living witnesses as to what really, really happened. We can't, you know what they say about history. If you don't learn from history, it will repeat itself. And I thank God that so many people are aware of that they're fighting against ignorance today. And they don't want history to repeat itself. I appreciate that. So, that's my story. I graduated from Seminole High School with honors. I went ahead and graduated from Florida Southern College with honors. Then I got a job teaching at Lake Brantley High School, Spanish.
Go Patriots.
And I taught there 20 years. And I taught at Lake Mary 17 years. And I retired in 2012. And right now, I'm happily retired. My husband and I, Pastor Ronald Nathan of True Holiness Deliverance Church in Sanford. Overseer Carrie Bryant is our overseer, and I'm considered a first lady now, I guess. But God is first in our lives, and I appreciate the fact that He was able to use me at that time, and He can use me anytime. And I would do it again. Thank you.